In a galaxy filled with powerful and ancient civilizations, humanity had always been seen as a newcomer. For years, the alien species of the galaxy had been fighting wars, expanding their empires, and exploring the universe. They had vast fleets of ships, advanced technologies, and centuries of experience. Humans, on the other hand, had only recently started to reach for the stars. Their fleet, though growing, was still small. Many aliens called it the tiny fleet, and many thought that they were no real threat. One day, the leaders of the most powerful alien races gathered for an important meeting. They had learned that humanity was preparing to launch a fleet of ships to defend their home planet, Earth, and protect their growing colonies in space. The coalition of alien species had heard about humanity's progress and saw it as a joke. They couldn't believe that such a small and young species would challenge them. "Look at them," said the leader of the Zorethians, a race known for their enormous starships. "They're still using primitive ships. They think they can compete with us. It's laughable." The other alien leaders chuckled, agreeing with the Zorethians' words. The humans were trying to prove that they could protect themselves, but they were far outclassed. The alliance of galactic powers had fleets that could destroy entire planets. The human ships were tiny in comparison, and no one believed they could hold their own in a real battle. Meanwhile, on Earth, humanity's leaders were aware of the alien laughter. But instead of backing down or retreating, they stood firm. Humans had always faced challenges with determination, and they would face this one the same way. The fleet they had built was small, yes, but it was packed with the best technology they could create. The humans knew they didn't have the same power as the galactic empires, but they also knew something the aliens didn't understand yet. Humans were resourceful and clever. The human fleet, though small, was made up of ships with special designs. These ships weren't just about firepower. They were equipped with advanced shields, faster engines, and a unique system that allowed them to change direction at unbelievable speeds. The humans had created something different, something the aliens hadn't seen before. But the alien coalition was too busy laughing at the tiny fleet to take them seriously. The humans didn't respond to the mockery. They focused on preparing their ships, ensuring every crew member was trained, every system tested, and every weapon ready. They knew that once the battle began, there would be no time to fix mistakes. Earth's fleet was their last line of defense, and they would have to rely on their wits and skill, not just their numbers. As the alien coalition gathered its forces, the humans quietly moved their fleet into position. Each ship in the human fleet had been designed for agility. The crews were well prepared, with each captain knowing exactly what needed to be done. The humans weren't aiming to be the biggest force in the galaxy. They knew they would always be outnumbered. But they were determined to show the galaxy that they could fight just as hard, if not harder. The alien fleet was massive. Thousands of ships, each one larger than any human vessel, lined up in space. They had never considered that the humans might pose a serious threat, and their commanders were confident that the battle would be over before it even started. They had underestimated the human spirit before, but this time, it seemed almost impossible for the tiny fleet to cause any real damage. And then, as the alien ships began their journey toward Earth, the humans activated their fleet's first strategy, a strategy that was meant to surprise. The humans knew that their ships couldn't match the alien firepower head-on, so they would rely on speed, precision, and tactics that the aliens had never encountered. The tiny fleet would take on the much larger enemy with everything they had. The odds were against them, but if there was one thing humanity had proven time and time again, it was that they never backed down from a fight. As the battle drew nearer, the alien leaders couldn't stop laughing. They were sure that this would be a simple victory. They were sure that this tiny fleet was nothing more than a temporary annoyance. But what they didn't know was that the real battle hadn't even begun yet. The alien coalition's warships surged forward, their massive hulls gliding through space with a silent confidence. Thousands of ships, each one designed for destruction, slowly advanced toward Earth, ready to crush the tiny human fleet. The alien commanders were sure that this would be an easy victory. With their enormous ships and superior firepower, the humans didn't stand a chance. As the aliens neared Earth, the human fleet lay in wait, silent and still. The humans had one advantage the aliens didn't know about. Their ships were fast, small, and highly maneuverable. While the alien ships were large and powerful, they were slower, relying on brute force to win battles. The human fleet, on the other hand, would use speed and agility to outwit them. On board the human ships, the crew members were calm and focused. They had trained for months, preparing for this day. Every pilot knew their role, every engineer knew their ship's systems, and every commander had a plan. The moment the alien ships entered range, it would be time to act. The humans were ready, but the aliens still underestimated them. The first shots were fired as the alien ships opened fire. Massive energy beams shot through space, aimed directly at the human fleet. The humans braced themselves. The alien firepower was incredible, each blast capable of destroying a human ship in an instant. But the human ships were already in motion, weaving and dodging with a speed that the aliens hadn't anticipated. How were they dodging this? One of the alien commanders shouted, his voice filled with disbelief. "They're too fast." The human ships moved with a grace and precision that took the aliens by surprise. The first few blasts missed entirely, hitting nothing but empty space. The humans were using advanced technology that allowed them to make quick, sharp turns, something the alien fleets couldn't do. As the alien ships tried to follow the humans' movements, they found themselves struggling to keep up. The human fleet didn't just dodge the attacks. They were fighting back. Small fighter ships, faster than anything the aliens had ever seen, launched missiles that exploded on impact with the alien ships. The humans had learned to make every shot count, using their smaller weapons and quick movements to wear down the larger enemy. Each successful hit made the aliens more frustrated, but it also made them take the humans more seriously. In the heat of the battle, the humans' communications officers worked quickly, directing ships to strategic positions and keeping the fleet in constant motion. The alien commanders had expected the humans to run or retreat, but instead they found themselves facing a fleet that fought with every ounce of determination they had. "Increase the firepower," one of the alien generals ordered, his frustration mounting. "We need to break through their defenses." The aliens fired more blasts, their ships releasing waves of energy beams. But the humans were ready. Their ships had been designed with energy shields that absorbed the alien blasts, redirecting the energy away from the hull. Some of the human ships took hits, but their shields held strong. The humans had spent years developing this technology, knowing that their small fleet couldn't survive without it. As the battle raged on, the human fleet kept moving in unpredictable patterns. They weren't trying to destroy every alien ship. They were trying to create enough confusion and disarray to give themselves a chance. The human fleet was fighting to survive, but they were also fighting to show the galaxy that they were not to be underestimated. Meanwhile, on the alien side, panic began to spread. The coalition had thought the humans were nothing more than an easy target, but now the situation was not so clear. The human ships were too fast, too smart, and too determined. The alien commanders could see that they were losing control of the battle. The humans weren't retreating, and they weren't breaking under pressure. They were fighting back, and they were doing it in ways the aliens didn't understand. One of the alien captains watched in disbelief as his ship's weapons missed their target for the 5th time in a row. "How are they doing this?" he muttered. "How can they be so precise?" The humans weren't relying on sheer firepower. They didn't have the luxury of overwhelming the enemy with numbers and strength. Instead, they used their intelligence and creativity. Every human ship had been carefully planned, every pilot trained to think on their feet. The aliens had believed that brute force would win the day, but they hadn't counted on the humans' ability to adapt and innovate. As the battle wore on, The alien fleet's once confident leaders began to worry. The tiny human fleet wasn't just holding its ground. It was making them work for every victory. The alien commanders were starting to realize that this battle might not be as easy as they had thought. The humans had shown them that they could fight, and that they could fight smart. With each passing minute, the humans' tiny fleet was proving something more important than just the ability to survive. They were proving that, no matter the size of the force, humanity had something far more valuable: the will to fight and the ability to outthink even the most powerful enemies in the galaxy. The battle raged on in the cold void of space. The once confident alien fleet was now starting to feel the pressure. The human ships, small but agile, continued to dart and weave around the larger, slower alien warships. The humans had proven themselves capable of evading the alien firepower, and now they were striking back, each move more daring than the last. On the command bridge of one of the alien warships, Commander Varnock slammed his fist onto the control panel in frustration. How are they doing this? We have the superior firepower. We have the numbers. And yet, they are holding their own. His voice echoed throughout the room, filled with disbelief. Across the battlefield, the humans were moving faster than the aliens could comprehend. The human fleet was not just surviving. They were forcing the aliens to adapt. Each human ship was a blur of motion, turning and shifting with precision, their crew members working in perfect harmony. The aliens, however, were not used to fighting like this. Their ships were built for power, not agility, and the humans had turned this advantage into their strongest weapon. Captain Anya Jacobs, leader of the human fleet's main ship, watched the alien movements carefully from her command seat. She was calm, her eyes focused on the holographic map in front of her. We need to keep the pressure on them. They'll break soon if we keep this up. Her crew nodded, understanding the plan. Anya knew that they couldn't afford to lose focus. The human fleet might be small, but their tactics had been carefully designed for this moment. The aliens were powerful, but their overconfidence was their weakness. The humans had only one goal now: to wear them down, to outlast them, and to show the galaxy that they could fight back. Meanwhile, on the alien side, the pressure was mounting. The larger ships were not built for quick maneuvers, and they struggled to keep up with the humans' unpredictable movements. The first few waves of attacks had been easily countered, but now something had changed. The human fleet was starting to show more than just evasion. It was starting to fight back with purpose. "Prepare the secondary fleet," Commander Varnock ordered, his voice filled with urgency. "We need to crush them now. Do not underestimate them again." As the alien commanders scrambled to adjust their tactics, the human fleet continued its fast-paced attack. Small fighter ships darted in and out of the larger alien vessels, launching precision strikes at weak points. These weren't just random attacks. Every shot was calculated, aiming for places where the alien ships were most vulnerable. The human fleet was not just avoiding the aliens, it was systematically wearing them down. Anya watched as another alien ship fell behind, trailing smoke and sparks as its engines sputtered. The human fighters had hit it in just the right spot. She could see the alien commanders growing more desperate. This was their first real test of the battle, and they were already beginning to crack under the pressure. The humans had known from the start that they couldn't win with sheer firepower alone. They had no intention of matching the alien strength head-on. Instead, they relied on their ability to think differently, to strike where the enemy was weakest. Each small victory added up, wearing the aliens down, making them question their strategy. The first alien warship, a massive vessel that had once seemed invincible, was now limping through space, its shields failing and its weapons barely functional. Anya's fleet had worked together to break its defenses, forcing the ship into a retreat. The alien forces had never expected this kind of resistance. "Keep the pressure up, everyone," Anya ordered, her voice steady and calm. "We're making them question everything. Don't let up now." The alien forces had grown more cautious, hesitant. They no longer charged in with the same confidence. Their ships moved slower, carefully positioning themselves to avoid human attacks. This change in tactics showed just how much the tide had turned. The humans had done what no one thought possible. They had made the aliens doubt their superiority. Even the Zorathian general, who had been one of the most vocal in dismissing the human fleet, now sat in silence, watching as his own fleet struggled to land a decisive blow. His ships, once sure of their victory, were now being pushed back. The human fleet had proven itself capable of something more than just survival. It had proven that, even against overwhelming odds, humans could find a way to fight. The galaxy was beginning to notice. The battle was being broadcast across the stars, and the message was clear. The tiny human fleet was not something to be laughed at. The humans had fought with everything they had, and they were still standing. As the battle continued, the human fleet pressed on, striking with precision and focus. The alien forces were starting to retreat, unsure of how to counter the humans' relentless tactics. The humans had taken the first step in proving that size and strength were not the only factors that mattered in a battle. Intelligence, courage, and adaptability were just as important. And with each passing moment, the alien fleet began to realize the truth. The humans were not just a small, insignificant force. They were a force to be reckoned with. The tide of the battle had clearly shifted. What had started as a fight for survival for the humans had now become a fight for dominance. The once confident alien forces, who had believed they would easily crush Earth's tiny fleet, were now scrambling to regroup. Their massive warships, slow and heavy, had been outmaneuvered and outsmarted at every turn. The humans' fleet had proven itself to be far more than just a nuisance. On the command bridge of the lead alien ship, Commander Varnock paced back and forth, his mind racing. "We have to finish this," he muttered to himself. "If we don't crush them now, we'll lose our advantage. The humans are more organized than we thought." His officers looked at him with doubt. They had never seen a battle like this before. For the first time in years, the alien fleet was under attack, and the humans weren't backing down. Their quick and clever tactics had the aliens on the defensive. But Varnock's pride wouldn't let him admit that he was losing to a much smaller force. "Prepare to deploy the secondary fleet," he ordered, his voice tight with frustration. "We can't afford to be outsmarted any longer. We'll show them the full power of the Zorathian coalition." Meanwhile, Anya Jacobs, captain of the human fleet, remained focused. Her eyes were fixed on the glowing map in front of her, her mind processing the latest data. The alien ships were trying to regroup, but it was too late. The humans had already made their move. "We've got them on the ropes," Anya said, speaking softly but with confidence. "They've underestimated us from the start. We need to keep pushing." Her crew, each one feeling the weight of the battle, nodded in agreement. The humans knew they couldn't stop now. The aliens had believed that humanity was weak, a mere blip in the galaxy's vastness. But the humans had shown the galaxy something entirely different. They had shown that Earth's fleet wasn't just about firepower. It was about brains, strategy, and determination. As the battle continued, the humans began to press the advantage. The alien ships, large and cumbersome, found it harder and harder to respond to the humans' lightning-fast movements. The human ships, small and nimble, darted in and out, delivering precise strikes against the alien fleet. The aliens' attempts to retaliate only seemed to fall short. Every time they fired, the humans were already gone, their ships streaking across space like shooting stars. Anya's eyes never left the control panel in front of her. She had a plan, and she knew it was working. The key to winning this battle wasn't brute force. It was patience, timing, and keeping the pressure on the alien fleet. They couldn't let up. Not now. She turned to her communication officer. "Send out the next wave of fighters. We need to keep the alien fleet guessing. If we keep them off balance, they'll make mistakes." The communication officer nodded and quickly relayed the orders. The small fighter ships, faster and more agile than anything the aliens had seen, broke away from the main fleet and rushed toward the enemy. Their goal wasn't to destroy the aliens outright. They only needed to keep the larger ships distracted, to further tire them out. They were wearing the aliens down, piece by piece. On the alien side, Varnak's anger was growing. He had watched as his ships took damage, their shields weakening, their firepower faltering. The humans weren't just dodging their attacks. They were finding and exploiting every weakness. He had underestimated them. And now the results were clear. "Commander," one of his officers spoke up hesitantly. "We've lost another cruiser. It was too fast for us to hit." Varnak clenched his fists. His pride was on the line now. "This isn't over yet," he growled. "We still have the advantage in numbers. Prepare the fleet for another push. Full power. This time, we will crush them." But as the Zorathian ships readied themselves for another assault, Anya's voice came over the communications channel, calm and determined. "Zorathian fleet, you've made a mistake," she said, her voice carrying across the stars. "You've underestimated humanity, and now you're going to pay the price." The aliens were silent for a moment, unsure of how to respond. The humans were clearly not intimidated by their numbers. They had been fighting with a precision that seemed impossible. Every time the aliens thought they had an advantage, the humans turned the tables. Anya didn't wait for a response. She knew the next move would be crucial. The humans needed to act quickly before the aliens could regroup. "Now," Anya shouted, "send the last wave." A new set of fighters, smaller but more deadly than before, zoomed toward the heart of the alien fleet. These ships were equipped with high-powered missiles that had been designed to target the weakest points in the alien ships' defenses. The humans had learned quickly. No enemy was invincible if you knew where to strike. As the missiles locked on and launched, the alien fleet braced for the worst. This was it. The humans had found their opening. The first explosion lit up the darkness of space, followed by a chain of blasts. Alien ships rocked under the force of the missiles. The human fleet's assault was relentless, precise, and deadly. In moments, the aliens had lost two more of their largest ships, their once dominant fleet now in chaos. Commander Varnak's face was pale. This was not what he had expected. The humans had turned the battle into something he could no longer control. "They're not just fighting back," Varnak muttered, his voice filled with awe and fear. "They're winning." The battlefield was now a chaotic mess of flashing lights, explosions, and debris. The human fleet had completely turned the tide. What had once seemed like an impossible fight had turned into a stunning victory in the making. The alien ships, despite their massive size and firepower, were beginning to break apart, one by one. Commander Varnak's once proud fleet was now struggling to stay in formation. The humans had proven that size didn't matter in space combat. The smaller, more agile human ships had outmaneuvered and outsmarted their alien opponents at every turn. And now, with their victory in sight, Anya Jacobs knew that it was time for one final push. "We've done well, but we're not done yet," Anya said, her voice calm but firm. Her crew, though exhausted, understood the importance of the moment. They had to finish what they had started. They had to show the galaxy once and for all that humanity would never back down. On the bridge of the alien command ship, Commander Varnak clenched his fists, his face a mask of frustration. His fleet was falling apart. The human ships, though outnumbered, were relentless. His commanders were scrambling to make sense of the attack. He had underestimated humanity. And now, his pride, his fleet, and his career were on the line. "We can still win this," Varnak muttered, staring at the chaotic battlefield. "We have numbers. We have power. We just need to push them back." But his officers didn't share his confidence. They had seen enough to know that the humans weren't going to fold. The once proud Zorathian fleet was now scattered, each ship trying to escape the humans' relentless pursuit. "Commander," one of the officers said hesitantly, "we've lost contact with the secondary fleet. They've been destroyed." Varnak's face paled. The secondary fleet was meant to be their backup, the key to crushing the humans. If that was gone, Then they were down to their last few ships. Desperation began to creep into his voice. "We can't lose." "Not like this," he said, but his words lacked the strength they once had. Back on the human side, Anya could feel the tension mounting. Her heart raced with each passing second, knowing that victory was within their grasp. But she also knew that they couldn't afford to let up. The aliens were desperate, and a desperate enemy could be dangerous. "Give me an update on the fleet," Anya ordered. Her communications officer worked quickly, his fingers flying across the control panel. "We've taken out most of their heavy cruisers, Captain. They're disorganized and retreating, but there's still a threat. Some of the larger ships are trying to make a run for it." Anya nodded, her gaze fixed on the map before her. "We can't let any of them escape. If even one of those ships gets away, they'll regroup and come back for round 2. We finish this now, or we risk everything." Her crew responded with a collective, determined nod. It was now or never. There was no turning back. The next wave of human fighters moved out, racing toward the retreating alien ships. They knew that the final battle would require everything they had. This was their last chance to end the war, to prove that humanity could stand against the greatest forces in the galaxy. Anya watched as the human fighters closed in on the alien ships. The alien commanders, desperate to save their fleet, tried to shift their formations, but it was too late. The humans had already predicted their movements. One by one, the alien ships began to fall. The humans struck with precision, targeting weak points that had been identified earlier in the battle. The alien fleet was on the verge of collapse. Back on the alien command ship, Varnok's mind raced. He had failed. His fleet was in ruins. The humans had outsmarted them at every turn. They had made the impossible seem possible, and now the final blow was coming. "Commander," an officer said, his voice shaking, "we have no options left. The human ships are closing in. We can't outrun them." Varnok stood there, staring at the screen, his mind refusing to accept what was happening. The humans had won. He had failed to crush them. And now, the Zorathian coalition would have to face the consequences. On the human side, Anya watched as the final alien ships exploded in space. The fight was over. The humans had won. She let out a breath she didn't realize she had been holding. "We did it," she whispered to herself. "We really did it." Her crew erupted into cheers, but Anya remained focused. This victory was important, but there was still much work to be done. They had fought for their survival, for their future, and they had succeeded. But now, they had to make sure that the message was clear, that humanity would never be underestimated again. "Prepare for our next steps," Anya said, her voice steady. "We've proven ourselves today, but the galaxy is watching. We have to be ready for whatever comes next." As the debris of the alien fleet floated in space, the message was clear. Humanity was not to be underestimated. The tiny fleet had done the impossible, and the galaxy would never forget the day the humans showed what they were capable of. The stars twinkled in the distance as the last of the alien ships drifted into the void, leaving nothing but silence behind them. The once mighty fleet that had threatened Earth was now a wreckage scattered across the vastness of space. The humans had emerged victorious, their small fleet having outmaneuvered and outsmarted the alien forces at every turn. On the bridge of the human command ship, Captain Anya Jacobs stood still, gazing at the dark void outside the windows. Her crew was silent too, the weight of the battle finally sinking in. They had won, but at what cost? The alien fleet had been shattered, yes, but there were still many questions left unanswered. "We did it," Anya said softly, almost to herself. Her voice held both relief and exhaustion. She had led them to victory, but now she had to face the consequences of that victory. Her first officer, Lieutenant Carter, approached her cautiously. "Captain, we need to assess the damage. There's still work to do before we can celebrate." Anya nodded. "Right. Get the damage reports from the fleet, Carter. And make sure we're prepared for anything else. This victory was just the beginning. As Carter moved away to gather the information, Anya's thoughts turned inward. The humans had been underestimated by the galaxy. The aliens had laughed at their tiny fleet, believing that humanity would crumble under pressure. But now, the entire galaxy would know the truth. Earth wasn't to be ignored. Not anymore. Across the human fleet, engineers and medical teams worked tirelessly, repairing ships and tending to the wounded. The damage was not as severe as the humans had feared, but there were still losses to mourn. The battle had been fierce, and the humans had paid a price for their victory. Many lives had been lost, and the scars of the fight would stay with them for a long time. In the ship's medical bay, Lieutenant Nora Simmons, the fleet's lead doctor, worked tirelessly to care for the injured. It wasn't just physical wounds that she had to treat. There were emotional scars, too. The battle had taken its toll on everyone, and she knew that healing would take time. As she moved from one patient to the next, Nora couldn't help but think about the larger picture. The alien fleet was gone, but there were still many more alien races in the galaxy. Would they come for Earth, too? Would they try to avenge the Zorathians' defeat? She shook her head, focusing on the task at hand. There was no time to dwell on the unknown. For now, the humans needed to rest, recover, and regroup. The war might have been won, but the galaxy was still a dangerous place. Back on the command deck, Anya reviewed the reports that were coming in. Her eyes scanned the data, making sure everything was in order. The humans had won, but the victory had been hard-earned. They had not only faced a superior enemy, but they had done so with limited resources and no help from other galactic powers. The humans had proven that they were capable of much more than the galaxy had given them credit for, and that was something that no one would forget. As the day passed, Anya felt a sense of both pride and unease. The victory was important, yes, but what came next? The humans had proven themselves in battle, but they had also made enemies. Would the other alien races view them as a threat? Would they unite against humanity? Anya knew that the answer was uncertain. The victory over the Zorathians had been a massive achievement, but it had also painted a target on humanity's back. The galaxy was vast, and there were many powerful civilizations out there. The humans might have won this battle, but they had no idea what challenges lay ahead. Lieutenant Carter returned with the fleet's damage report. "Captain, we've lost 2 ships completely, and several others are heavily damaged. We'll need time to repair, but overall, we're in good shape. The rest of the fleet is holding strong." Anya nodded. "Good. We'll get through this. We always do." But in the back of her mind, she knew that this was only the beginning. The humans had proven their strength, but the galaxy was full of surprises. The real challenge had yet to come. And she, along with her crew, would have to face it head-on. As she looked out at the vastness of space, Anya couldn't help but feel a sense of determination. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. The humans had shown the galaxy their power, and now they would have to live with the consequences. The galaxy had laughed at the tiny human fleet, but now they would have to take humanity seriously, and no one knew what the future would hold. But Anya knew one thing for sure: the humans would never back down. They had already proven that. Days passed since the battle, and the human fleet slowly began to rebuild. The stars outside the windows of the command ship felt different now. There was a quiet, peaceful stillness in the air, but it was also filled with something new: hope. The victory over the Zorathians had proven that humanity could stand strong in the face of unimaginable odds. But now came the harder part: the aftermath. Captain Anya Jacobs stood on the bridge, her gaze fixed on the endless expanse of space. She had always loved the view, the feeling of the stars stretching out before her. But today, it felt different. The weight of what had happened, the battle, the loss, the victory, was still heavy on her shoulders. She had led her people to a great triumph, but now she had to lead them forward into the unknown. "Captain," Lieutenant Carter's voice interrupted her thoughts. "We've finished the final repairs on the fleet. Most of the ships are back to full strength. The crew is recovering, but we need to start thinking about what comes next." Anya turned to face him, her face set in determination. "I know, Carter. We can't afford to sit back and rest. The galaxy is watching us now, and we need to be ready for whatever comes our way." Carter nodded, his expression serious. The victory over the Zorathians won't be forgotten. But there are still a lot of unknowns. The other alien races, they might see us as a threat now. Anya sighed. "That's exactly what I'm worried about. We've made enemies, but we've also made allies. Some alien factions are already reaching out, offering help, or at least trying to understand us. But we can't trust anyone completely. We need to keep our guard up." As the two of them spoke, Anya could feel the weight of leadership on her. She was no longer just a captain. She was a symbol of humanity's strength, a symbol that would carry far beyond the stars. She had to be careful with every decision she made, for the future of Earth and the entire human race rested on her shoulders. Meanwhile, across the fleet, the crew members were working hard to recover from the battle. Some had lost friends, others had been injured. But all of them shared a common bond. They had fought together, and together they had won. In the medical bay, Lieutenant Nora Simmons worked quietly, tending to the wounded. It wasn't easy. The human fighters had fought bravely, but there were still scars that couldn't be healed by medicine alone. Some of the crew members were struggling with what they had seen, what they had done. War was never clean, and even in victory, there was pain. Nora sat beside one of her patients, a young officer who had survived the battle but was struggling to find peace. "You did well," she said softly, trying to comfort the young man. "You survived. You fought for all of us. That's something to be proud of." The officer nodded, but his eyes remained distant. I just wish it hadn't been necessary." Nora understood. She had seen the same pain in so many of her patients. War was a heavy burden, and sometimes the hardest part wasn't the battle. It was living with the aftermath. Back on the command deck, Anya stood before the fleet's holographic map, her finger tracing the lines that connected Earth to the farthest reaches of the galaxy. The war with the Zorathians was over, but the galaxy hadn't stopped moving. There were still countless stars, countless civilizations, each with their own secrets, their own agendas. She turned to her officers. "We've proven that humanity can fight, but we need to prove that we can build too. We need to make our mark in the galaxy, not just as warriors, but as diplomats, as explorers. We need to show the galaxy that we're more than just a fleet of ships. We're a civilization with something to offer." Her voice was steady, but beneath it, there was an urgency. The future was uncertain, but the humans had earned their place among the stars. Now, it was time to make sure they didn't lose it. Lieutenant Carter nodded. "You're right, Captain. We've fought for our survival. Now it's time to build our future." The crew of the human fleet had proven that they were capable of anything. They had defeated a powerful enemy, shown the galaxy their strength, and earned a place in the stars. But the true test would come now. How would they build their future? How would they navigate the complexities of the galaxy, filled with strange and powerful beings? As the human fleet set course for a new chapter in their history, Anya couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. They had done the impossible. They had made their mark. And now, they would show the galaxy that humanity was not just a tiny fleet, it was a force to be reckoned with. "We've won the battle," Anya said quietly to herself, "but the war for our future is just beginning."